Part 1, Chapter 5 of Never Let Me Go, we really start to see the characterization of Ruth and Kathy come into play. So by the end of Chapter 4, Ruth asks Kathy to become a secret guard for Miss Geraldine. Now, looking back at who Miss Geraldine is, I kind of added this picture here because it reminds me of her a little bit. She's an art teacher, typically for the infant grades. She's the teacher that praised Tommy's elephant watercolor when everybody else made fun of it. And she kind of accepts everybody. She sees all the students as equals. But really, what's happening in this chapter that we see is Ruth just really wants her favor for some reason, and we don't know why. She conjures up this plot that Miss Geraldine is going to be kidnapped by the other guardians. Now, we don't know if this is true or not at the time, but it's this ongoing conspiracy. She says that there have been students who have tried to escape. Like, for instance, there was one student who climbed the fence, and when she tried to get back in, she wasn't allowed. There was another student who they found hanging from a tree with his hands and feet cut off. So these are very outlandish stories, but this all kind of contributes to this kidnapping theory of Miss Geraldine. So what happens with these secret guards? I'm sure you find out that Kathy no longer is included. And it seems like Ruth is almost plotting the Guardians against each other in a way. This is very much a middle school-esque like plot here. So when we were in middle school, I feel like there was always that one girl or that one boy who would just lie just to lie, just about anything at all. That could be where they got their outfit, or somebody was kissing at a party, just these very crazy lies. And it's almost as if Ruth lies so much that she believes her lies. So I'm sure you may have told yourself something so many times you actually start to believe it. I think that's possibly what might be happening here. So this exchange is going to happen. And remember, if we go back to the exchange in part 4, it's the pre-owned items that we don't know where they come from, but they can buy them with tokens from the sales, from the art that they create. So the exchange arrives, and Ruth gets a pencil pouch, which I put a photo here, polka dot pencil pouch, and Kathy gets a chess game. Now, Ruth at one point had mentioned that she knows how to play chess, so she thought, well, I'll get this chess game and then she can teach me how to play. But eventually we find out that Ruth actually doesn't know how to play chess. And that kind of leads me to the pencil pouch. Where does the pencil pouch come into play? So on page 56, everyone's asking each other what they got in the sale. And Ruth pulls out this polka dot pencil pouch and she says, let's agree I got it in the sale. And then kind of gave this little smirk because she's claiming the pencil case is a gift from Miss Geraldine. Now, again, she wants her favor for some reason, and we don't know why. But Kathy is already kind of skeptical. So she mentions the fact that there is this book that logs every item bought at the exchange and by who. So she kind of says to Ruth, hey, last Tuesday I was looking at the sale list, the register thing. And all of a sudden Ruth gets very, very defensive. Kind of like, why would you look at that? There's no reason to look at that. But Kathy gets the courage to finally stand up to Ruth. It's at the end of the chapter, we see Kathy and Ruth have this interesting interaction between each other because Ruth gets very defensive. But all of a sudden, instead of Kathy continuing to accuse her of this and call her out for it, she starts to feel bad. She said, all this effort, all this planning just to upset my dearest friend. So it's interesting that she considers her a dearest friend, especially what they've been going through. I now felt awful and I was confused, but as we stood there together staring at the fog and rain, I could think of no way now to repair the damage I'd done. So it's actually really interesting how Kathy reacts to that, and Ruth kind of just storms away. This kind of leads me to um, one point in the story. Kathy and Ruth are considered to be foil characters. Now, a foil character is someone that shows qualities that are in complete contrast with the qualities of somebody else. So I kind of put up a chart here, and we see the difference between both Kathy and Ruth. Um, there are some there are some interesting examples of how they can be foil characters. Ruth is very progressive and goes after what she wants. Kathy's more passive and doesn't really take charge of anything. Um, very demanding versus hiding behind a face. So we call Ruth a dynamic character, which means when Kathy has these flashbacks, and I think it was back maybe in chapter 2 or 3, Ruth and Kathy are talking after this all happens. They're kind of reflecting on Hailsham. Ruth kind of realizes she was not a nice person to Kathy, and Kathy doesn't really change. She's always accepted Ruth as a friend, even when working for her as a carer. So the development of the story is interesting, but the contrasting traits of the characters really help us understand not only their personalities, but they help us comprehend the importance of their role in the novel.